Texas is a nightmare. It's not to say that everyone who lives there is a nightmare or a problem or stupid or racist. That's not the case. Look, I may live in California now, but I was raised for the vast majority of my life in Idaho, which is also a nightmare. Right now we're witnessing, I'm going to get to Texas. Obviously, you clicked on the video, you know what it's about. We're witnessing right now an open casting call for racists all across the country. The Republican Party is no longer using dog whistles or coded language. They are now, through legislation, attempting to indoctrinate our children and whitewash history, erasing the bad parts of our history that they don't want to teach our kids about because they might have a fulsome picture of the founding of the United States and all of the historical events that lead to us to where we are today. They would have a full understanding of the good and the bad. I'm going to read about Texas, the Texas Senate, SB 3, and some of the ridiculous assertions that are made and what they're trying to do with this legislation. I'm going to read from Bloomberg. This article, Texas Senate votes to remove required lessons on civil rights. The Texas Senate on Friday passed legislation that would end requirements that public schools include writings on women's suffrage and the civil rights movement in social studies classes. Among the figures whose works would be dropped, Susan B. Anthony, Cesar Chavez, and Martin Luther King Jr., whose I Have a Dream speech and letter from a Birmingham jail would no longer make the curriculum cut. The SB 3, which was passed on a vote of 18-4, now is stalled because the House can't achieve a quorum while a breakaway group of Democrats is out of the state. The special session is set to end on August 6th because the governor brought them back for a special session to get some things done. Kudos to the Democrats who fled the state. It seems like an extreme measure to some, but it is actually stopping damaging things from being done by the Texas legislature. It is action when action was needed. This bill would remove more than 24 teaching requirements from a new law, HB 3979, that bars the teaching of critical race theory and academic framework exploring racism's shaping of the country. That law included a list of historical figures, events, and documents required for inclusion in social studies classes. The Senate-passed bill would remove most mentions of people of color and women from those requirements, along with the requirement that students be taught about the history of white supremacy and the ways in which it was morally wrong. I'm going to repeat that because it bears repeating. The Senate-passed bill would remove most mentions of people of color and women from those requirements. It would also remove a requirement that students be taught about the history of white supremacy and the ways in which it was morally wrong. They're removing a requirement to teach that white supremacy is morally wrong. That's where we are with Republicans, not just in Texas, but all over the country. That's where we are.